Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new to the channel and want to hit the subscribe button, that would be awesome. Kind of getting a late start to the vlog. Just got off work. Honestly, the last thing I want to do right now. But today, my front set of brake pads came in. Went with Hawk Performance. I always run them on all my cars. Have them on the Prelude. No complaints. They do their job. So these are their Street 5.0 series. I believe these are one of their newest series that they came out with. The pad compound is ferrocarbon. I've read into it a little bit. These are supposed to be one of the quietest and smoothest brake pads that Hawk makes. So I'm stoked for that. To complement the stopping power, we got our DBA brakes from Australia. Read a lot of good things about these guys here. We got the full set front and rear. These have a kangaroo paw design. So inside there it's like a kangaroo paw, that's what it looks like, and it helps with ventilation and releasing gases. And then to complement that too, we got our RBF 600 Multiple .4 brake fluid. Heard a lot of good things about this brake fluid. It is .4, the Skyline runs .3, but a lot of the Skyline forums and some Skyline owners said that they run this on street and heavy track use. And to upgrade more of the brakes, we got our GK Tech Teflon brake lines. I'm incredibly stoked to run these. Sorry you can't see too well, but the rotors they're in decent shape. They are really rusted, as well as the brake pads. They still got plenty of life, honestly, but it's just time to swap out and do all the maintenance on the Skyline. Quick update on the Prelude. My parts for my swap that I have been waiting for the past two and a half months should be here hopefully this week or early next week. And once those are in, I'm gonna start pulling the motor and trans, and I know a lot of you are stoked about that, so stay tuned. All right, got Venus in here. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just flush out all the old fluid since we'll be running the mold tool, and they said not to mix it with any .3. Got our bleeder valve here on the Z32 brakes, and then 2 bolts behind the caliper to release the caliper, take off the rotor, and then we will put on our new GK Tech brake lines. Cool. So first brake line is out. Just disconnected it here from this hard line from the chassis end. Follow through getting these retainer clips out, 2 bolts to this bracket here. Now we'll go ahead and remove the caliper. Update, so we got the Z32 caliper off right now since this car is about 30 years old, 50,000 miles on it. I don't think the rotors have ever been replaced since it's still, I'd say, fairly new. That being said, car being in Japan, rotor's probably frozen and rusted on. So let it sit in some penetrating oil, and we're gonna go ahead and use Thor's hammer to try to free up all this rust. You ready?
Whack away.
Just like that, huh? Oh, I fucked up.
Easy. Oh, that's all it took, huh?
It's heavy as fuck.
That's the method.
Cool. So here we have the DBA rotor. It is a slotted design, and like I mentioned in the video, it's a kangaroo paw design, the way they engineered it, so gases are relieved more efficiently. Here's the before.
Ugly.
And after.
Glorious.
So here we have the DBA rotor on, again, Z32. Fits perfectly. Hit up the boys at Concept Z Performance for all of your rotor and brake pad needs. All right, so already ran into my first issue. Unfortunately, long story short, the rotor I bought is actually meant for the R32 GTR, at least for the front. The stock GTST rotors are 280 millimeters, and the front set of GTR rotors stock is 297 millimeters. That being said, there's clearance issues for the caliper. They don't sit flush to the knuckle, so the only way to fix that issue would be to get GTR R32 knuckles, which definitely not going to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and return this DBA rotor to the front pair back, and they do make a 280 millimeter DBA 4000 series rotor that I'll have to buy from a separate company. But fortunately, the rears are the same as the GTRs from all the research I did. So we will still go ahead and install the rears, and I'll just go ahead and return the fronts. So in this video, I'll just go ahead and swap out all the brake lines to the GK Tech, not mess with the front rotor or caliper. I'll put the old pads back in. I'll put the new brake lines, pads, and rotors in the rear. Cross my fingers that they will fit. And then I'll bleed the whole system with the mold tool, and hopefully everything will work out. It is the next day. We are back. Last night I just attempted to take off the brake hose on the passenger Japanese side. Almost shit bricks because I used an open end wrench on this bolt up here and it ended up rounding out, so definitely shitting bricks. I used a vice grip, it didn't work, so overnight I hit it with PB Blaster. You really shouldn't use any penetration oil if you're utilizing stock lines, because it potentially may be in the caliper, but since we're replacing the brake lines, I went ahead and hit it with PB Blaster, and I went to Harbor Freight. And again, when you're doing any brake job or any line job, I highly recommend line wrenches. Got that free easily. Just gonna go ahead and break the caliper portion out. I'm just gonna go ahead also and break all of the lines in the rear. As you can see, I got this one going pretty easy. I did last night order the appropriate DBA 4000 series T3 rotors. So again, the GTRs are 296 millimeters and the GTST Z300ZX are going to be 280 up front. Also went ahead and picked up this manual single bleeder kit because I don't know where my other one went. Quick update, so I got the bracket here removed, as well as the hard line that connects to the stock brake hose to the caliper. If you are running GK Tech's hardline delete, this whole assembly is not needed, the bracket's not needed, and of course the brake line isn't needed, as well as this side. Just got everything done. Just got the hard line from the chassis side out. Again, none of this stuff is needed anymore. Only, I won't say an issue, but the only pain in the ass problem is getting this retainer clip out because you're limited to space. Okay, so I got one of the rear rotors off. I let the bolts here soak in PB Blaster for an hour or so. There's two methods of taking off the rear rotors. First, I can't emphasize this enough, make sure that the e-brake is off, or the drum pad here will be expanded and it will not get the rotor off. So once the e-brake is off, you can either, I forgot the size of the bolts you can use to back out the rotor, or you can use a rubber mallet and hit the center of the rotor and it will come out nicely. Cool, so we got the new 5.0 Hawk pads in. Pretty easy with this style of caliper. Push the pins out, this retainer clip, and then I guess this other retainer clip. Compress the pistons with some form of C-clamp, or you can just use your hand. Just make sure that they are nice and compressed. Put everything back in. Oh, before you do, highly recommend just greasing up the back of the pads and the hardware to make everything go back in fluently. All right, so we got the DBA 4000 series rotor on, looking real nice. Got the Hawk 5.0 street pads on, as well as the GK Tech Teflon brake line. So this whole assembly is done. Now all I have to do is just move on to the passenger side. And just finished, nope, not the best lighting, but just finished up the passenger rear rotor. Got the new pads on and the new GK Tech Teflon brake line. So right now I'm gonna manually bleed the brakes. Got this little brake bleeder vacuum pump from Harbor Freight. It was like 20 bucks since I don't have anybody else at my house at this time. Comes with multiple fittings. Just crack the bleeder valve, give it a good couple of pumps. It'll pressurize and suck out as much as the old fluid, and then we'll put our new fluid in and we'll do a Z formation closest to the brake master cylinder. Give the brakes some love and hopefully all the calipers compress. Update, just got done bleeding the whole system twice. Topped off the fluid. All the calipers compressed, which is great. No brake fluid dripping from any of the lines, which is great. My forearms are seriously rock solid after using this bleeder vacuum pump. I'm so sore. But again, picked this up at Harbor Freight for like $1. Usually when I do brakes, I have a buddy with me. We like manually bleed the system, but this is great for bleeding the system if you are riding solo. So again, all the calipers compressed. I can already tell that there's so much more bite with these pads and rotors. E-brake is still good. And also the brake feels so tight. I love it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and leave the Skyline on all fours. I don't plan on driving this car until I get my front rotors in, which I ordered. They just shipped about an hour ago. I think they're coming from Georgia, so Georgia to Arizona shouldn't take too long. And then of course, that's when I'll install the new pads with the rotors so everything wears evenly. Also just ordered a polyurethane transmission mount from GK Tech. I might as well order my Nismo short shifter too while I'm at it, but that short shifter won't be here anytime soon. So we'll just install the front set when the time comes. This will be a 2-part video, and the polyurethane transmission mount while the Skyline is in the air, and then everything should be a-okay. And then I'll go ahead and bleed the system 2 more times. I have plenty of brake fluid left. So guys, thank you again for everything. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. That'd be awesome. Stay tuned for part 2. And remember, aim high, drive low. We'll see you next video. Take care.